It's awesome.
Have you been following the Bitcoin Cash
Of course.
thing?
Yeah.
What is it? Is it like Schadenfreude? Like what is it?
What was that?
Is it Schadenfreude? Like do you get
Oh yeah.
pleasure or is it just sad?
Oh yeah. No, I'm having a great time. It's a very emotional experience.
No,
Cool. How's it going, everybody? It's Juan Galt with Crypto TV. I'm joined by Andreas Brekken. You're a very interesting character. I met you earlier last year at an Acapulco, right after the debate with Roger Ver, right?
yeah.
And we had a great conversation. We had a short conversation over drinks, but it was high quality, and I felt it was better than my debate with Roger Ver, which it's very nice when you can have a good conversation with somebody you have some disagreements with.
And
And
the way I remember it is you finished the debate, and as you remember, we stacked the room against you,
yeah,
and it was sort of accidental, but it was kind of on purpose because we knew you would be debating. So, I mean, there were so many of us at the conference, so we said, okay, everybody get to the conference room. Uh, we're having the debate, and we're sitting there just like clapping. But during the debate, like not only was the audience stacked against you, just because that's what the setup was, but it felt like during the show, not only were the moderators stacked against you, but they would also bring in new people stacked against you. So, like middle through the debate, I was like, I think I'm gonna cheer for this guy because I mean, I just want to know what's up. I want to hear the truth and good arguments. Um, it's fun when we're a bunch of friends just stack in the room, but when the moderators go against you and start bringing other people against you, it's just, I don't know. It doesn't seem like a good way to do debate at all for me.
yeah, appreciate it. I mean, the good news is I'm weird. Like, I have very little
You're tough.
stage fright,
You're very tough.
and yeah, thanks, man. And so I had a great time. I loved it. It was a peak experience for me, and
Yeah.
I thought it was a decent debate. I thought it was a good conversation, even though it was very difficult, and you had to kind of like really pay attention. But
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but I approached you, and
mhm.
I said you really held up well against a very stacked audience, which is why I thought you were so interesting. Still do.
Appreciate it. Well, I got a little bit of revenge back at the end because my lady friend I gave her like one of the Blockstream hats with the dragon, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, I
just
love it.
it's a great hat. It's
Yeah, it's
like
good.
genuinely good hat.
Good handsome Mao. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm the one
yeah.
most of the time, but he can make hats.
He can make hats. Yeah, yeah. No, they're killing it on merchandise. They're selling so much merchandise. It's incredible.
I tried to use the store in my lightning review on shitcoin.com. So
What was that?
yeah, I tried to use the store. I tried to pay for a hat with lightning when I did my review of Lightning Network on
Yeah,
shitcoin.com.
yeah, yeah. How did that go?
I'm not going to spoil it, but
Okay, okay, right on. Well, that's the other thing that I
no.
saw you do, which I thought was really kind of refreshing and interesting. You kind of dove into Lightning. I think you threw like 50 Bitcoin at a Lightning node or something like that,
Mhm.
um, and then you've been writing this series of posts on shitcoin.com, which is a great domain, obviously. So that's good stuff. I like what you're doing. I understand you're not you're friends with Roger Ver and you're hanging out with Bitcoin Cash guys, but you seem to be a fairly nuanced guy, and you're trying to be sensible here.
And you have to remember that the person that introduced me to Roger was Trace Mayer, who
Mm,
is, I mean, definitely a small blocker,
mm-hmm,
totally against, you know, the roadmap for scaling
mm-hmm,
one-time Bitcoin Cash.
mm-hmm,
And before, and I know Trace Mayer because I was working at Kraken as a software engineer, and Kraken has, I wouldn't say maximalist, but Kraken has been, um, definitely siding with core over the years, at
mm-hmm,
least being very cautious.
mm-hmm.
And maybe cautious is a good word.
No, I think you're right. And Kraken was, as far as I understand, co-founded by Trace Mayer. Trace Mayer is like an OG of OGs. You know, he goes way back, and he's done very
I
well for
don't know if
himself.
co-founded, but he was a very early investor.
Yeah, 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 that's probably right. A very early investor, and I think anyway, he created Armory, and I think there was some maybe some work done between Kraken and Armory, or maybe I'm just making stuff up. Either way, like it seems like Kraken is sort of Trace Mayer's preferred exchange, probably, and
Absolutely.
and that gives me confidence in Kraken. And Kraken, you know, used to be a little bit slow and stuff, but they really upped their game. So I'm a big fan of Kraken. I don't think I have
And
any
also, I mean,
USD tethers.
you were at an Acapulco, and I think Jesse would come to an Acapulco if it wasn't for, I mean, the schedule when you see off an exchange is insane. But Jesse
Gotcha.
is, if you go to the Kraken office, the HQ, which no one will ever do because they will never tell you where that is.
Right. Right. Of course.
Because they take security extremely seriously. But if you
Yeah,
go
of
there,
course.
there is an entire library full of books about free markets. There's a lot of Rothbard. There's a lot of Mises, even some Friedman. It is all there for the employees to pick up. Some Hazlitt, which
Wow.
even in the kitchen, yeah, almost.
That's awesome. That sounds like a great company to work with.
They're strong on the fundamentals, which is why we're all in this.
No, that's how I feel about them. They feel like hard rock. They've never been hacked, to my knowledge. I've never heard of anything like that. You know, these days you never know because the exchanges make so much money that they could probably just cover the losses, and some of them are insured, right? But they seem to have a clean track record. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So he introduced you to Roger Ver. How did you get into Bitcoin? Did you know about it beforehand?
Yes, I initially I just read about Bitcoin online. It's so hard to say what it was, but it feels like it was 2010, 2011. So that would probably be what's that thing we used to read before Reddit? I don't know. It was before
MySpace.
Hacker News and everything. So I just read about it online, and my first idea was I would make an exchange and make a bank where you could get loans and you'd like build up sort of some credit score, and we would have like aspects of gambling in there as well because I love lotteries. I think everybody should have a lottery account in their bank where you just send money to it, and it's like a probably fair lottery, unlike the state lotteries. And yeah, want to do lending, want to do everything. And then obviously, while trying to make this, I figured out nobody cared aside from me, so it's impossible to recruit a crew. Everybody said Bitcoin was too crazy, so it went pretty quiet for me until sometime in 2011, where I think I just bought some Bitcoin of somebody on Skype, like OTC trade. You know, we used to use IRC. Bitcoin OTC channel was big because it was really tough to buy. It was GOX or IRC. So, I mean, I was a bag holder, right? I was holding the coin. And that made me look into it. And I started, my first project was a dice site, sort of. It was actually, the first game was video poker, classic video poker. The domain was Snowcoin. No, sorry, it was Luckcoin. LUCKCO.im. And our announcement thread is still on Bitcoin Talk, if you don't believe me.
Right on.
Yeah, and one of the first customers was Douglas, who now famously or infamously runs Just Dice, which I believe is one of the biggest gambling sites in Bitcoin. So he was one of my first customers before he ran his own site. And he even found some bugs in my welcome bonus code and managed to get some dollars off me. But I mean, I just told him, "You got me. We're still good." he was very helpful. The community was always very helpful. That was the first business. Then I figured out like running a illicit casino wouldn't scale that far, so I started an exchange, the first Bitcoin exchange in Norway. I would say Scandinavia, also the first. Cefello was already around at that time, but they do retail like Coinbase did. So I wouldn't call them exchange at the time. Yeah, we did everything. I mean, we gave presentations to banks and the royal family and everything back in 2013. We lobbied, we spent money on lawyers trying to get rid of the VAT. No, we did absolutely everything to promote Bitcoin in Norway, in Scandinavia, in Europe, just everywhere. And my life has been Bitcoin since 2011 and still is.
Right. So what happened? What was it? You know, if you had to pick one reason, one thing that made you kind of like take the fork, you know, go with Bitcoin Cash, what was it?
Yeah, so I was working at Kraken at the time, and I was roommates with Kevin Zoe, who used to be head of trading at Kraken. He now runs his own investment fund. And, you know, we'd sit up all night, drinking beers, playing Super Smash Brothers, and we talked about scaling because that's what you talked about back then. And I was a big blocker back then. I think it's because my background is in software engineering, so I know that hardware, all the hardware, which is storage, processing power, memory, and also internet bandwidth, has increased really quick since Bitcoin came out in 2009. I mean, it's insane. SSDs, this super cheap RAM we have, the internet. I mean, you can get fiber anywhere now. It's amazing. So my argument was, I wanted Bitcoin to scale. I wanted a block size to scale sort of at the same rate as our hardware, but not even as aggressive, because if we had Bitcoin block size scale at the rate of the hardware, our blocks would be in the gigabytes. But I just, it wasn't like, it wasn't an anti-Raspberry Pi thing, because even back then I was running nodes on Raspberry Pi. And it wasn't like, you know, the poor people in Africa, this and that. It was just like, I think almost every node can run this quite comfortably, and it could get us out of the stalemate. But at the office and my friends, many people didn't agree. Trace Mayer, Ken Zoe, they said, no, let's look at this as a settlement layer and see where the fee market takes us. And if the system works, the fees will go up and we'll get solutions outside of on-chain to support transactions. And I think that's a really good argument. It's like, we don't know. There's only one way to know if this works, and it is to do it. And I think now it seems like we were both right. So Bitcoin Cash is able to sustain, I guess the block size is 32 meg now, not utilized at all. And Bitcoin Core, which is still on 1 meg with a little bit of saving from SegWit. It's also
2-3 more.
Now. We'd have to see another fee event to see the fee market. So right now it's, I don't know, I wish we had, like, how could we have both at the same time? I don't know.
Yeah, we do get to see both at the same time. You know, I think to some degree,
at the same time, but I wish we were still the same. We are still the same family, but I wish we were still the same ticker. Right.
Yeah. No, it's tricky, right? With these consensus changes, with this sort of hard kind of rules. Whenever there's a fork like that, you know, it played out the way it played out because there was probably no better way for it to play out. I think.
We didn't know.
Well, I mean, I've been
So we
studying the
didn't know
UASF
what would
event.
happen if we forked. We didn't know what would happen if we forked, and we didn't know what
Yeah,
would
yeah.
happen if we forked. And the answer is quite clearly that if you don't fork, you fork, and if you do fork, you fork. So a soft fork, the difference between the soft fork and the hard fork was erased, and basically only led to an increased complexity in the code of Bitcoin Core.
Maybe. I mean, how do you feel right now about this situation you guys are in, where you know, there was this scheduled hard fork, and because it was scheduled, there was a fork, and the fork was like very contentious. You know, from looking from afar, it looks like another civil war, like a smaller civil war. I'm sure it doesn't feel small to you guys. But this fork has been different than other forks, like with Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. After the fork,
that was Shilbert. Ethereum Classic was Shilbert trying to pump a coin.
Yeah. You know, however, whatever was going on in the background, after the fork, both networks had a greater amount of wealth at the end. You know, after the fork, and the same with Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, right?
This is Barry Shilbert, and also what's the crazy guy who did the thing in Puerto Rico? The guy that gets married. Like,
that guy. Yeah. What's his name? The actor.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I think it was him that said 1 + 1 is 3.
Well, no, but like there was. I mean, I'm pretty sure we can go back and look at that. You know, the Ethereum and Ethereum Classic fork. You know, pre-fork there was a certain market cap. After the fork, there was more, like a higher market cap if you added them up.
1 + 1 equals 3, which means we have one coin. We make it into 2 coins, but suddenly the value is more than 2.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like we have. It's almost like something. It's almost like the conflict is suppressing the price, and when we let the valve go, we get to see. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. The fork sort of released the conflict, right? That tension, and that releases energy, and the market, right, reflects it. And we saw that with Bitcoin Cash as well, but it seems like that's not what's happening with Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV, with ABC and SV. What do you attribute to that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, so the SV fork, it's I don't know if this is well known online, but I guess it'll be now. So for the last year, I've been running a GitHub repo called Cult of Craig. And it's an open source repository where everybody can submit. And we document the scams, the fraud and deception, and the lies, and the fake proofs done by Craig Wright over the years. And I've been like a librarian of his scams for a year, because it's been very important to me for us to get rid of Craig Wright, because I think when we forked Bitcoin Cash, we got a lot of cool people. You know, we got some Rogers, we got some McAfee's, we got a lot of anarchists. But it comes with baggage, which means we also got a lot of the conspiracy theorists.
Yep.
You know, the frogs are gay. They're poisoning the water with the floor, like all this thing. I think we got a lot of those people.
Yeah.
And that was fine. We had those in Bitcoin, always had them. But the issue was when Craig Wright showed up, because these people, the cultists, the Alex Jones people, are very susceptible to conspiracy theories and con men.
Wow.
So as soon as Craig Wright came into the picture, I got extremely worried, because, you know, I would say the mentally weakest people in the big blocker movement were about to be targeted by Craig Wright with all of his flair and fake proofs and fake things and frauds and everything. So I know that you cannot attack a con man with direct accusations, because it just lends more credibility. So I just started documenting over time, and I asked all my friends, both Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Core, to send links and proofs and talks, so that when Craig is finally desperate, we would be able to show that we have been documenting his affairs for over a year.
Well, that's great work. That's legitimately good work.
So the fork for me was about getting rid of Craig Wright. I had no say in it. I mean, I have Twitter, which nobody reads, and shipcoin.com, which is not going to help in this kind of debate. But it was my goal, and I was also pushing that we were going to get rid of Craig Wright once and for all. Fake Toshi.
Yeah, fake Toshi. I mean,
fake Toshi from now. I mean, let's not even bother. So to me, the fork was about only one thing: getting rid of fake Toshi. I looked at the patches they have in. One is CTOR, which means cannot call transaction ordering. It makes it easier to
we'll get to the technicals in a moment.
Templates, that kind of thing. But this was like get rid of Craig Wright immediately.
Right. Yeah, no, we'll get to the technical details. We can touch on them. To me, the technical debate around the fork is almost inconsequential to the reason. Like it's just an excuse to fork.
Almost fake, right?
Almost inconsequential. Like there's no. I've never really actually even been interested in it.
It feels like ABC brought in a patch set only to differentiate themselves from SV. They knew the conflict would come, so they came up with something just to be different.
Interesting. So ABC initiated the fork.
How they always pick sides over like these tiniest matters that nobody cares about. Because you gotta have like your talking points. So now ABC goes like, "Oh, we're about transaction ordering and DSV." And they're like, well, if you're for that, I don't know why, but we hate it now. It's like such a contrived dichotomy.
Well, you grab one symbol of the great thing and you fight over it, and that's the flag. Right? That's like that's the hill you fight on, right?
But we did that in the original split as well. I mean, we chose completely random things to fight over. The original fight was block size, and it ended up in SegWit versus what? It was like so arbitrary.
It was very technical, very obtuse in a sense. Hang on, let's not get too far away from where we were at, because that was really interesting. So like
I'll let you run your show.
So when I was there's a moment where I was writing for for Jeff Berwick at the time during the fork, and one of my core arguments during that fork was you can't, like, the fact that Craig Wright is anywhere near that scenario is, to me, a huge red flag. You got to kick this guy out. Whatever you do, you got to kick him out. So I'm glad that you guys are having this fork. I'm glad you guys are ousting him. I find it fascinating. Like, I couldn't have said it better myself. That in part because of the leaders that you attracted to Bitcoin Cash, a lot of them are anarchist leaders, right? This was the thing that was shocking to me. A lot of them are ANCAPs, right? So you have Rick Falkvinch, Roger Ver, who?
McAfee, I would say.
Yeah, McAfee seems to be friendly to it. McAfee's kind of like doesn't really give them any.
Has been quite silent.
Right, Eric Voorhees kind of got out of this politics right after the fork. He was like, okay, I
get it.
Yeah, he just aims up, and I appreciate Eric. I know there's some controversy around him, but he's a good dude. And so, but I was just shocked that so many ANCAPs had gone this. Even Jeff Berwick too was sort of very much paying lip service to Bitcoin Cash, and I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. So, but to me, it was like, okay, just get rid of fake Satoshi, and we'll see. Maybe you guys can come up with something useful. But I mean, I've gone full Bitcoin. I think I've done the tour of the altcoins, and I think for the next few years, I'm just gonna go all in on Bitcoin. But I think
that's fair.
Yeah, but I'm really interested in this kind of fork events, and particularly the hash wars and the cultural sort of aspect of it. I like my concern with, well, I just think that it's amazing that I just want to highlight what you said, that a lot of you guys got a lot of the conspiracy sort of minded people, and that doesn't mean that there isn't conspiracies, and that doesn't mean that all conspiracy theories are wrong, But
I think
my experience.
by the
Like,
virtue of being a breakout faction, we ended up with people who are attracted to breakout factions.
right. Yeah,
And
that's
that has been very
exactly.
tough for us.
That's exactly. I think that's very on point. Like I've been living around libertarians and ANCAPs for a long time, and that mentality, I know that mentality very personally, where you can spin off a conspiracy theory for everything, and they're almost impossible to disprove, right? To the point where, like, for years, I've had a standard which is like, well, if you can't give me like a really good or like a fairly good argument as to how they benefit, well, how they benefit, how does the person benefit from this conspiracy, right? You at least have to measure it against that, and then obviously you gotta add evidence, right? So anyway, Craig Wright is, he's definitely got some.
Well, I mean, to put it like this, if there is no conspiracy about Bitcoin Core or Blockstream that I believe in.
Okay, well, that's interesting to hear. That's really interesting to hear. So, what's going on with Cobra? Cobra, are you following his Twitter? This guy's the Bitcoin.org.
I would say. The account is run by multiple people, and at least one of them is a contrarian. So they will say whatever is spicy, as we call it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that they have an end in sight other than being contrarian.
Right.
So whatever will cause commotion on Twitter and online, I think that is what they will say.
Huh.
So not a crisis actor, but simply somebody who wants to get reads and wants to get views.
Okay. Well, it's a fairly popular Twitter account, and the guy is definitely a contrarian, definitely controversial, definitely saying, it's not clear to me what they're doing, but they seem to be kind of playing nice with SV, and they were playing nice with Bitcoin Cash, and they used to be kind of tied with Bitcoin Core, and I just saw him tweet that Blockstream is a conspiracy, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? But maybe they're just sort of saying things, right?
Seems like they're completely contrarian, just like up to make noise.
Right. Okay, what about maybe I'm curious now. What do you know about the @Bitcoin Twitter account? Is that owned by Roger?
Not that I know of.
Not that you know of.
But it would. I mean, it is possible that Roger owns it and didn't tell me, because I mean, you have many things you don't tell your friends.
Right.
But it would be easy to tell. So if Roger wrote it, it would be perfect grammar and never curse.
Okay.
That's like the hallmark of Roger writing is no cursing.
No cursing.
Like
and perfect grammar.
You can't pay him to say shit on camera.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
When I interviewed him on my show, I asked, like, can we say shit on the com? Like, will you say that, or do we have to? No, he won't say anything. He'll say gosh instead of shit. So, like, it's almost a parody.
It's really funny. I mean, I have a lot of disagreements with Roger. I really don't. Yeah, I've met him a few times, and he's a nice guy. And like I really don't like and don't agree with how he's approaching all of this. But he's a very competent guy, and like he's an incredible, like very strong entrepreneur. He makes good plays. He's tough. He's a tough guy, and it's really.
He's a strong debater.
He's what?
He's a strong debater, like a politician, so he will have talking points and always return to the talking points.
Well, you can debate with him. It's very hard to debate with him.
I would say to the point where I don't even find it interesting to listen, because I know he's going to return to the talking point like he did with you. And it's more of a politician's debate than a...
well, that's my concern with him. I think...
university debate.
Yeah, that's my concern with him. It seems to me, whenever I hear him talk, whenever I look at his tweets, that he's not... It seems to me like he's no longer looking at the situation. He simply seems to have a set of conclusions, and he just does the math and then it spits out an answer. And he doesn't seem like to me like he's conscious looking at the sort of developing environment, developing facts, and that's my concern, right? And this is something that happens to people, like
But
not
this
to
was
get
always the way with Roger. You can go back to 2010 and it'll be the same. So back in 2010, his talking point was, fuck the bank, the government is corrupt. Then it was core is corrupt. Then it was fuck SV is corrupt. So Roger hasn't changed. Roger is a warrior, and he has a vision of what Bitcoin should be, which is, in his mind, is money you can use on your phone, just send to each other.
Okay.
And if we can get SOB as a bonus, that's fantastic. If we can destroy the government as a bonus, that's fantastic. But he's going for the use your phone to send money to somebody else.
Sure.
And so that hasn't changed. But what has changed is what the enemy is. And the enemy was banks, and then it was core, and then it was SV. So the question is, what will be the new enemy? Because SV is clearly defeated in every metric. So I'm hoping that the new enemy will go back to being the state.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
We are struggling in fungibility in Bitcoin. It is a disaster.
Oh yeah, it's bad. It's. I mean, I think Lightning seems to be, going. It seems like Lightning's going to help, and there's other tech that apparently is coming. But I think this internal fighting that we're having, right? It's healthy in a certain way because there's a lot of garbage in this industry, and I think we're going to see. I think it seems to me like from a pure sort of instinct perspective, I see a wave of cleaning of the industry. You kitty cat. And we have multiple examples. We have the SEC going after ICOs and tokens that look like securities. Pretty much everything. It seems like they're just going one at a time, sort of hitting them. And then on the other hand, you have this shark pool, which who knows what they're actually doing or if they're actually big. But they're saying they're going to start attacking altcoins. Yeah, that's apparently a real thing. The Telegram chat is full. Some of the maximalists are talking about it. Well, they're full, so I'm trying to get in on it too, right? Like, it's fascinating.
Are they going to attack Bcash?
No, I don't think that. No, that they. So it's called Shark Pool Cash. So they seem to be Bitcoin Cash guys.
Wait, really?
Yeah. So this thing called Shark Pool, and okay,
I remember now. They're going to attack smaller coins and put it back into Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah. That's what they want to do. I mean, I'm not sure that I'm not seeing their teeth, right? Like just mining empty blocks on an altcoin and then selling them for Bitcoin Cash. That's not going to destroy anything. It's just kind of parasitical. Like if you want to destroy them, you got to go a little bit harder. But who knows what's going on in that Telegram chat? And so, like, I don't know exactly what the best path of action here is. But there's definitely a motivation kind of emerging in this industry to clean up a lot of the garbage coins. Because there's a lot of claims of security and decentralization that are, like obviously bullshit. And so, we may be seeing that the next year or two during this bear market from multiple angles. Like there's multiple forces pushing on these things, right? Like the price, confidence, the technical challenges, the fact that people just don't have the mental space to handle 20 different altcoins, like currency is a very tricky thing and people have limited brain space. You're going to handle, we're going to have maybe 6 choices for like, I don't even can imagine 6 choices. Like we're going to have 3 or 4 actual currencies and then a bunch of little niche things, maybe. The vision of like everybody has their own altcoin, right, type of thing is ridiculous. And you're seeing it with the utility tokens, right? Like it's terrible user experience. Like if I want to go and buy a service from you, I don't want to go to your thing, buy a token from you and then give it back to you so that I can get the service. Like it's completely insane. Private currencies are shit.
Yeah. It's a lemonade stand video where you show up at the lemonade stand and said you need to have lemon stand tokens.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
But you can get it. You just have to sign up on Coinbase and KYC and then
with a Russian exchange, right? Just give us all your information and your insurance.
I'm totally with that. But so back to what you were saying. Fungibility, and by that I mean privacy, is much more important to me than scaling. So back in the day when we had the block size debate, if you gave me the choice, you said, Andreas, would you like the focus of Bitcoin to be that we're going to go full steam ahead on privacy and fungibility, or that we're going to increase the block size? Then I would have said privacy.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
If our coin is not private, we have a shitty profile, which would be very, very sad. And I think
no, it's bad. Like the real takeover of Bitcoin is not. It's not. I don't think it's going to be around scalability, because let's say that the powers that be, right? You know, the Bilderberg or whoever the fuck is up there, right? And my bottom line is like, you know, if any group that you define, yeah, it's the middle management people that fuck it all up.
Middle management in banks.
Yeah.
And government, not the top guys. They don't care.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, whatever, right? Like, yeah. So, like, my basic sort of thinking these days is like, you define a group, and I will point you the good guys and the bad guys, right? Like, you define a set of people and a moral standard, and you'll have a full spectrum in that group of people standing somewhere, you know, along those lines. And so I don't really care where in society they are, right? Sometimes maybe it's tilted more towards one side or the other, but whatever. Anyway, let's say that the worst, most powerful people out there are saying, how do we take over this shit? Well, first of all, they're going to want it to scale if they really want to take it over. But the way that they would want to take it over would be to completely eliminate the fungibility and the privacy, so they can turn it into a surveillance apparatus. That's the real takeover. So I'm 100% with your privacy. It seems to me like Lightning is, you know, a huge privacy improvement on its own, even though the base layer was neutral. And it was interesting that Satoshi left it as that, you know, that it was like pseudonymous. It wasn't totally 100% private. It wasn't totally transparent. You know, it was an interesting neutral. You think it was an incompetence?
Incompetence on Satoshi's part, for sure.
Right. I mean, well, it's a very difficult problem we've found.
It was insane. I mean, if you've been in since the early days, oh my God, the amount of... It's normally software, but the code just looked like shit. If you try to hire me to work on Bitcoin as a job, as a wage cock we call these days, and you showed me the source, main.cpp, like thousands of lines of just like nonsense code, I would never have started work there, because it just looked like shit. Yeah. And mangled up together with the interface code is a disaster. And they also, you know, they put the signatures inside transactions. All those signatures are completely not deterministic. Transactions were not ordered, which is, I don't know why you'd ever do that, because it destroys the case for sharding. All these opcodes that were implemented completely backwards and wrong, so the devs have to take them out immediately. Infinite inflation through several bugs. A database upgrade led to accidental fork. There was an inbuilt poker site that never happened. There was an inbuilt auction site like Bazaar that never happened.
Oh shit. Interesting.
There were so many things that never happened. So there is no immaculate first version of Bitcoin. It was an amazing invention where you put together proof of work and peer-to-peer communication. And I feel like I'm missing one here. Blockchain.
Yeah, blockchain.
Oh, yeah, that you tie transactions together in blocks, and you tie the blocks together in block hashes. That's the trio is amazing.
Yeah.
Implementation-wise, I would say it was quite weak.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard from some engineers as well that it was a ball of yarn, and you know, everybody's been trying to like clean it up for the rest ever since. You know.
And very poorly. I mean, Bitcoin Core even today is Bitcoin Core or ABC or BU today is very difficult to work with as an engineer. There's many features that were never done correctly that are still increasingly bad. We have many address formats. We have original address formats starting with 1, multi-sig starting with 3, which is pay-to-script hash. Yeah. Now we have BEC32, which is even more confusing.
Yeah, I actually don't get BEC32. I mean, I should look into it.
it's it's a problem with engineers. I'm a software engineer myself. We think it's really fun to program, and the users end up with the pain, which is if I'm bored for 1 hour, I will make this massive change to Bitcoin, and then you all have to suffer through it for 10 years. It's just completely not fair.
I have no idea what's going on with Beck, but I do have hope that there's a good reason for it. I mean, anyway, there's people that I respect that are
I know it's not
enthusiastic about it, but
we have a ripoff of Beck on Bitcoin Cash today, which is called Cash Address, which I would say is even more unnecessarily complicated because we have more room for errors. You know the
right.
original.
Well, let's
was that you can read it on the phone.
say that again. I think there's a little bit of.
You should be using Beck because it's easier to read over a telephone connection. Was the original argument? I mean, get out of there.
Anyway, I'm really not informed on Beck, so I don't really want to talk about it because I have no idea what the.
Oh, I am. I've implemented it.
Yeah. Right. Well, okay. So let's turn to another topic that maybe I'm a little more familiar with right now. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was, I saw this clip of you being kind of, well, you were upset that there was a checkpoint put into Bitcoin Cash in order to basically protect against the long reorg that SV is allegedly still working on. Tell us about that. Like, what's going on with this checkpoint?
Yeah, so the clip was basically me and a bunch of Bitcoin Cash people in Athens at like 4 in the morning. And I think it was Jake who invited me on that thing. So at that point, I knew we had won the fork. I mean, no questions. We knew long before, because I was standing around with the guys, and I knew that they were going to put on the hashing power. I knew that well before, and when it happened, you know, Craig went into a complete meltdown, just confused, and exchanges. We were getting hints that exchanges would list ABC as the BCH. So my checkpoint comment at the time was basically because I knew Craig was watching. We knew he was watching our stream. So my comment about the checkpoint was basically a big old fuck you to Craig. Like,
but your comment was more or less like, guys, we fucked up, right? Like you were like, we fucked up. This is centralized, right? Okay.
So I'm giving context. The context was, I wanted to tell Craig that we beat you. This is a good time to give up and to start hashing on ABC instead. If you want to see him, which I hope wouldn't happen, and so on. But so my comment on the checkpoints is, like, why don't we have checkpoints today? Well, we do. It comes out with every major release of Bitcoin Core.
As far as I understand, there hasn't been a checkpoint on Bitcoin Core since 2014. And the original checkpoint was to stop like DOS attacks when there's low hash rate, so that, you know, a fork of the chain could just, you know, mine at difficulty 1 a bunch of blocks and then sort of do a DOS attack, right? Like that was apparently, which is basically kind of a reorg attack.
There is only one use case. It's to prevent reorgs, right?
Well,
so my argument for the video, I rewatched the video where I said this, which is, my argument was, if we put in a checkpoint on ABC to protect ourselves from Craig right today, then I would call this almost like a wartime measure. And those happen all the time. So my worry, even now, even though I was being extremely dramatic at the time, Graham does something. So my point is, what is preventing this wartime measure from being permanent?
Right.
And I was just sitting there thinking, like, what if, okay, what if in a year from now, Omri, the lead developer of ABC, is kidnapped, gunpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody tells them, hey, you have to put in this underhanded patch to ABC that inflates the money supply, but in such a way that is so clever that nobody will know before everybody's running it. And by the time it happens, it's too late because it's what we call underhanded programming. It's like a way to make it seem like you're doing one thing, but it's actually doing something else. So what if Omri is in distress, under duress, I mean, um, and we're in the habit of blindly accepting patches for ABC? This
Mm-hmm.
leaves the network vulnerable. So the first thing I did after ranting of the live chat is the next morning I sent a message to Pierre Risen, who runs who is I think he's like chief scientist or something of Bitcoin Limited. Um, and I said like, whoa, I think I went a little hard on the whole thing yesterday, but I still do wonder like what prevents the wartime measure from becoming permanent. And my immediate thought was um, if the exchanges can run a few different implementations, so Bitcoin Limited, Bitcoin ABC, and the Bitcoin Cash adoption of Bitcoin, which is hilariously called Bcash,
Mm-hmm.
First.io, then if we run three different implementations of Bitcoin Cash, then any patch we apply will have to be applied 3 times, and it would be very difficult to sneak code in. And if Omri's in a tough situation, then he would have a hard time convincing Peter Risen to add the same code to Bitcoin Limited, and he would again have a hard time convincing JJ and Andrew Lee and the guys at the Purse.io to add the same patch. So I think that would get us sort of a multi-sig on this coercion. But this relies on multiple implementations and exchanges running multiple implementations.
Well, this is the goal of open source software, right? Is you want to have a very, I understand what you're sort of trying kind of like to figure out, right? Is like, how do you prevent that attack? And that's the goal of open source in a sense, is to make sure that every piece of software that gets updated, right, uploaded to the live network is very well vetted. And this is Peter Thaw has a famous quote, as far as I'm concerned, that for every 8,000 lines of code I write, I have to write 10,000 lines of text to justify it. And and so that's important that there's a huge amount of debate around every single piece, which is why the conservative approach to software development in something like Bitcoin makes a lot of sense to me. And it seems like Roger is agreeing with this, right? Who?
This is why Luke is the best dev we have in Bitcoin, because he's hyper conservative.
Yeah.
Religiously, dude. If I could pick any one person, like you're at school and you're going to play a sport and you get to pick like who's going to be in your team. If I could pick one guy to be on my team that we don't have to be on Bitcoin Cash, I would choose Luke. He's an incredible voice for the conservative, hyper conservative.
Yeah.
And he's a great asset not only for Bitcoin Core but also for all of crypto.
Yeah. No, I appreciate Luke quite a bit. I get that there's people that can't literally they look at him and their brain just goes, but
because he's too long term for them. They're too busy reading Reddit and Twitter. Like they can't cope with somebody having an opinion that doesn't change.
Yeah. Everybody has to be like a Silicon Valley sort of atheist in Bitcoin. No, there can't be any sort of hardcore religious sort of conservatives, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, we should have all kinds, and Luke is an amazing asset.
Absolutely. No, he's great, and I'm a big fan. So, okay, let's talk about. So, did you see this whole thing about Gregory Maxwell sending an email to Craig Wright to try to help him, change his narrative in a way that's more beneficial to SV, and in a very honest sort of like, here's the reasons why my game theory is like this. What's your take on that?
Well, Greg Maxwell has two sides. So one Greg is the Greg that got banned from Wikipedia as a moderator for being a sociopath. I mean,
I
he
don't know the
was
history, but I've looked into it a little bit. But anyway,
you can Google Gregory Maxwell Wikipedia.
yeah, yeah.
There's a long audit trail on Wikipedia. No, he was being a sociopath on Wikipedia. He was mass deleting content. If you had a user page on Wikipedia and you had a picture of yourself and it didn't have an explicit long license under it, he would have a bot that would mass delete everybody's user pages as a joke, just for fun. So when they told him to stop, he said, "You can't stop me because I have unlimited sock puppets on Wikipedia. You can stop this one, but there's no way." So the order came in on Wikipedia from higher ups to say, "Okay, we're going to give Gregory Maxwell a break from Wikipedia." So there's I think it was a 72-hour ban of Gregory Maxwell and his sock puppets. And that's what they wrote. They wrote Gregory Maxwell and his sock puppets need a break from Wikipedia. So he was kicked out of Wikipedia for being extremely antisocial. I mean, straight up mean. But the thing is, the reason he was in Wikipedia is because he's a goddamn genius. He's so helpful. He made all the bots to do all the nice things. So when we got Gregory Maxwell and Bitcoin, we got both Gregs. We got the guy that sits up all night scheming to destroy Litecoin, to destroy Bitcoin Cash, to discredit people, to have sock puppets, to hyper censor our Bitcoin, all these things. We got that guy, which is really bad. But we also got the genius, the guy who not invented, but was very early on CoinJoin, very important to Lightning Network, all scaling. He found at least one extremely serious bug in Bitcoin Cash, many Bitcoin Core. So you can't just choose to have one Greg yourself.
No. Yeah, I mean,
you're stuck with a guy that sits up all night writing emails to Craig, which sucks because that's a complete a narcissist sociopath. But as a benefit, you get the genius who has done a lot for Bitcoin. So I don't know, it's hard to say, do I want CoinJoin without him trying to destroy our Bitcoin, or do I want our Bitcoin with no CoinJoin?
Right. Well, I mean, I think you put it pretty well, and that seems to be that's probably what you would find. Oh, hello? Did I lose you there? Yes. Oh, there, you're back. Are you back?
Mean.
Hang on. I lost. Okay, you're back. Yeah. So, you put it well. If anybody Googled Gregory Maxwell, that's probably what they would find. He's both a genius, and there's fun around Wikipedia, and there's definitely some fun around the fork and Bitcoin Cash. People hate Gregory, and Bitcoin Core people love Gregory, and so it's sort of he's definitely a controversial guy, very competent, right? But hang on, so okay, go ahead.
Yeah, when I started my first exchange in 2013. He was extremely helpful in IRC, any implementation questions, everything.
Yeah, he's very helpful. He can be very helpful technically. I mean, I've had,
absolutely,
no, he's a great guy in that sense. Yeah, I don't know, I don't know about the truth of the Wikipedia stuff. It's complicated to go figure out the reality of this FUD, but I believe you. I've looked into some of that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so. What I'm trying to sort of kind of get at is there's this weird game theoretical, this weird moral dilemma that Bitcoin Core is now at, or at least some maximalists, right? Anybody that doesn't care is probably fine, but right now we could, Bitcoin maximalists, like myself and other people, could side with fake Satoshi in order to help fuel up that side and make this conflict more difficult for you guys.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend, yeah.
Yeah, but the reason for that is that Craig Wright is obviously a scammer, whereas somebody like Roger Ver is, it seems to be ideologically motivated. He believes what he says. And that's a lot more dangerous and a lot more harmful, right? A lot more effective at creating, at damaging the brand, in a sense, the Bitcoin brand, if you will. And so it seems to me but I don't like this. It seems to me like this is an interesting sort of, dilemma that we just ran into, and that's the sort of the nature of life. It seems to just puts interesting forks on your. Give me a second. I gotta deal with something. 30 seconds. So. Yeah. So we have this dilemma, which is like, okay, we would, from a pure game theoretical perspective, in the immediate sense, we seem to benefit from boosting up fake Satoshi so that you guys can keep fighting, but because he's much more obviously a scammer than somebody like Roger Ver, who believes his own, what he says, even though we totally think it's all bullshit, pretty much, right? And so that's a really awkward situation, in a sense, to be in. I think that the ideal scenario would be to be able to get Bitcoin Cash to talk down, to just take the narrative down a few notches, so that there can be some peace between Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash. The problem is, like, when I look at Roger Ver's Twitter account, or when I look at Bitcoin, like, the bullshit, like the shit that they're saying is just insane. Like, to me, it's straight up propaganda. And maybe I can go in, like, on another conversation, or I can send you something. I can give you examples of why it's just, it's not, it doesn't seem to be oriented towards truth discovery. It's a propaganda sort of, attempt at sort of building up a narrative for Bitcoin Cash. And maybe it says this. Would you say that that's fair to say, or are we disagreeing on that?
No,
on that sort of the way that, right? And so if we can get Bitcoin Cash to just talk down the narrative a few notches, maybe we can find some peace between Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash, and then we can actually get rid of fake Satoshi instead of being in this weird game theoretical dilemma. And my concern is that this guy, I think Craig Wright, there's a good argument to be said that Craig Wright is probably an agent, and he's definitely a charming sociopath, and he is a corrupting force, right? And so if we start seeing Bitcoin maximalists play ball with fake Satoshi in order to enact revenge on Bitcoin Cash, that's something that's going to corrupt the whole ecosystem. And that's to me that's bad long term. So
I would like to turn it around.
Yeah,
I would like to turn it around. So what if Craig Wright is actually hired by a Bitcoiner to find all the people that are stupid enough to believe in Craig Wright, so he can identify them and make them broke in record time?
That would make a great movie, but that's just, it's too.
I know, right?
Yeah.
How cool would that be?
That would be that. Yeah.
Not, because the world is sadly not that beautiful.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. It's reality is often a little more disappointing. So I would not be surprised if he's like if he's like a Five Eyes agent, because, like, how do you get the BBC to host you, right? Like, he's.
You're ANCAP. I mean, you know how incompetent the government is. Somebody who can't even build a school or a road or a hospital or take care of the elderly. Do you think they can really infiltrate us?
No. I think the government is not always incompetent. I mean, that's part of the problem, right? Like, if they're incompetent, we are shit, because they're dominating, right? Like, governments are the norm, right? If they're incompetent, what the fuck are we doing? They're incompetent sometimes, and it's obviously incompetent, but if you were the CIA, how would you take over something like Bitcoin, or, the Bitcoin industry? Well, you go for the father figure, right? The creator, right? The hero of the story, which is Satoshi Nakamoto, and you corrupt that image, and then you put in, you try to take over that image and that narrative, and you pull people with it, right? Huh?
I mean, if you're ANCAP, you probably read the manual, the CIA manual on how to infiltrate a community, right? It never says to go in gun blazing and find the most obnoxious guy and just go crazy. It always says to go at grassroots level and slowly see descent, so it's impossible to know from. No, this is like such an idiot move.
Right.
It only had one I'm more observing it right now.
Well, they've probably tried to sow dissent, and but yeah, so maybe he's a lone agent. Maybe he's just doing his own thing, and he's just crazy, right? He's certainly playing a role, which is kind of like, you know, the bullshit exploiter, and well, it's certainly entertaining. What about Calvin Air? Like, what's going on with this guy? Why is Calvin Air cash flowing fake Satoshi?
So this is the one I can't figure out, because Calvin is very successful, and his background is in online gambling, especially during the tough years, around Black Friday.
Yeah. So is this true that Eric Voorhees sold Satoshi dice to Calvin Air for like a few 100,000 Bitcoin way back, and that was all based on the sort of the thesis that Bitcoin would scale on chain, and well, when that didn't happen, then it was a big loss for Calvin Air. So have you heard that story?
No, I've only heard rumors. So I've heard a few rumors. One rumor was that Eric sold it to himself to get out of legal issue, and another theory was that he sold it to to the gambling magnates in the world, which would be mostly Russian and East European. But I have to admit, I haven't heard the Calvin version yet. I've heard many others.
Right. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I mean, obviously, Calvin comes from from the gambling industry. Not sure how that's relevant, but yeah,
If you want to hear my conspiracy theory, then I think I think Calvin knew that he would lose. So I think the end game is that they will say that they will keep having a necessarily large amount of hash power on the chain, on SV, and they will argue that SV is somehow more virtuous because it has a disproportionately large hash power. So Craig will say, I'm Satoshi, and Bitcoin was always supposed to be SV. Jimmy Wynn will say, I'm an IP lawyer, I'm a business guy, and I'm declaring today that SV is the Bitcoin that is accepting business, that is ready for medium and large business, that builds a brand. And then Calvin will use the brand either to launch products that's riding on SV, Bitcoin SV. Just having Bitcoin in the name is amazing. And the other one is Calvin still has a lot of cash that is unaccounted for in previous settlements with governments. That I think mining would be a good way for him, because he can sort of buy mine.
Sorry, you got choppy there. Can you say that again? Calvin what?
Yeah, I mean, if Calvin is basically in back taxes, then it would be wise for him to rent hash power and at least partially in cash, and buy miners partially in cash and data centers partially in cash, and disclose some of the mining output and not the rest. That would be
right. Oh, and claim a loss for tax purposes, right? Like,
yeah, do it.
Fuck, why not?
But I hope that's what he's doing. But it could be that it's just building up a brand that's riding on Bitcoin and just wants a private coin.
Yeah, to cash in the patents, right? Like the fake Doshi patents.
Which is totally fair. I mean, we're in a very hostile environment. I just wish he attacked somebody else than us. I wish he went for Dash.
Right.
Or just we had enough problems.
Right.
I would find somebody even weaker, but I guess he chose us.
Right.
You should be happy.
Yeah, I mean, you guys welcomed him, right? Like, you guys welcomed him, and now you're showing the. Yeah.
About that?
Right. There's pictures of Roger Ver, fake Satoshi, and Calvin Air hanging out drinking wine. Like, what the fuck, right? And then there's like this stage debate with like Jihan Wu, fake Satoshi, and Roger Ver's like, why the fuck are you giving this guy a platform? He's clearly a scammer. He's definitely not Satoshi. Like, I understand that he puts up a good show, right?
I walked out of every talk.
Well, I respect you for that. So you didn't welcome him, but enough people in Bitcoin Cash welcomed him, and this is the price in a sense. This strange war.
Yeah, it's very sad. He's put us back. I mean, I would be generous to say 1 year, but I think the reality would be more. And
so you're
I think
confident that
he's put all of us back quite a bit.
Sorry, say that again.
I think he used the conflicts between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. I think he found a sweet spot where he would have the Bitcoin Core people, not fighting him, at least, and he would have some fringe people on Bitcoin Cash supporting him, and he just found a cesspool, and he just abused all of us. And now, I mean, go and see what's up. We're getting destroyed because anybody who looks at Bitcoin today just said, like, what a bunch of clowns. They're either forking or fighting. Like, these guys can't keep their shit together whatsoever.
Right. And, I mean that's definitely something that's hurt everybody.
You said you had like this game theoretical thing. Should I support fake Toshi to destroy Bitcoin Cash, or should I be silent, or should I help? I think your answer is this: that we started out with the same people, and when there's bad PR in Bitcoin Cash, it won't affect Bitcoin Core as badly, but it's certainly going to spoiler. Like when BitConnect happened, it suffered. We had nothing to do with that shit. But like they keep the right names, and they have some right people. So I think
the bug, the inflation bug.
Oh, BitConnect.
Oh, BitConnect. Fuck. Yeah, that hurt everybody. Yeah.
So I think we should. I don't know. I wish I was more diplomatic back then. I wish I said less shit about Bitcoin Core.
Right.
I just got like sort of swept up in it. I guess he did
yeah.
But,
well,
but what helped me is
the passion of it was incredible. It was like a civil war, you know.
It was civil war, but what helped me is just like going to conferences, talking to people like you, my old roommate, everybody, and I'm like, we're fighting over nothing. Like we're good. This is really cool stuff. Feel nice like those people. So anybody who's like conflicted and feel like they're at war, just go to a conference and talk to somebody.
It's really hard to be. It's really hard to be mean and angry at people when you meet them in real life. You know, it's very easy to do it on Twitter or social media.
I know.
It's why exactly that is. You know, maybe it's just because you don't have a face in front of you because they can't punch you in the face if you're too mean. But that's seems to be kind of the reality.
Keyboard warriors.
Yeah, keyboard warriors. Yeah. So what do you think? You think there's a way to get Bitcoin Cash to the people behind the sort of the more popular accounts to just talk down the narrative a little bit, or is Roger Ver just going to keep doing what he's doing and he's not reachable?
I mean, I spent all of last week with Roger, and he doesn't talk about. He doesn't really talk about Bitcoin Core much to his friends. I usually push them to discuss fungibility. I've been pushing really hard in getting Cash Shuffle, which is a variant of CoinJoin into his wallet. It's already in Electron Cash. And as far as I know, it's completely compatible with Bitcoin Core, so it should be able to use it as well. I don't know. I know him mostly as a friend, and he doesn't really talk about Bitcoin Core much. But no, my hope is.
I mean, it's mostly the public. The other stuff is that. Yeah.
So I think if we have atomic swaps on Lightning, atomic swaps on Liquid, and possibly an alternative is that everything is a side chain on Drive Chains, which is Paul Storage project. I think we have many paths towards reuniting all the coins, at least in liquidity. But if we have something like Drive Chain, I think we could reunite the coins under the same ticker symbol as well. And
Under the same ticker.
Get the family back together.
You say did you say under the same ticker?
Yeah, I mean, if we go for the Drive Chain approach, then Bitcoin Core would be the main chain, and Bitcoin Cash would be a side chain, but they would be the same currency. You would just move your BTC between the main chain, which would be Bitcoin Core, and the big block side chain, which would be the Bitcoin Cash. And we would be able to see the network with the UTXOs, where you know, you see the network so that one BTC is worth one BTC and one BTC is worth it's looking like 0.05 BTC right now. So it's like anything.
I'll have to look into that more, because I'm really not I'm not really educated on drive chains enough, but it's an interesting conversation for another time.
I'm quite certain that within 5 years we'll have one trigger again.
Right. Okay. Yeah, Jay Weatherman has some interesting theories on drive chain, but I don't know if you follow some of his work.
I'll have to read it. I have.
He's a he's a controversial guy. Yeah. No, it's all good. So one last question. What do you see as the goal, like for the SV people, like, or at least for Craig Wright and Gavin, like, or Calvin, like, is it just, okay, maybe tax, maybe a patent play, maybe they're just, maybe he's after the cult personality and they're building up, maybe they just want to like harm the industry from a PR perspective in any other way possible because of deeper nefarious motivation we're not aware of, or like, is there anything that I missed there that's a possible end game?
Yes.
Maybe just I think it mostly Calvin Harris a brand guys. I think he's a brand and use it for some not nefarious purpose, just like launch a product of some kind.
No problem.
For what?
Just launch a product of some type, maybe. Maybe it's gonna do an ICO, maybe it's gonna start a casino, whatever.
Right.
He knows.
Okay. Maybe he'll start a casino on top of like SV, and then it'll be like a distributed casino or whatever. Right. That would make sense. I mean, yeah, we'll see how distributed
he controls the whole thing.
Really is. Sorry, say that again. There's like my audio is feeding into your audio, and then it muffles. So gotta give it like a little bit of time and then respond.
No, I think he's gonna build a brand, and the coin is already centralized. So what's stopping him?
Bitcoin is centralized.
Bitcoin SV is centralized.
SV is centralized for sure, 100%. Like it's fake Dogecoin. We need a good nickname for it.
Yeah.
All right, we've been going on for a while. I really enjoyed the conversation, man. It's great to sort of compare notes and have a dialogue. Yeah, so I appreciate you coming on, and I like what you're doing with. Yeah, I appreciate what you're doing with the open source fake Satoshi situation. Shitcoin.com is a pretty interesting website, and you guys should go check out the YouTube channel. There's a really funny video about a tower. I'll let you go and click that, and I don't know if you still have it on.
Oh, it's there.
And yeah, anything else you want to plug? I mean, you got the Lightning Network series happening. I guess you're not done with it yet, so that's coming. Yeah.
No. If people want to check it out, shitcoin.com is pretty easy to remember. I write reviews completely objectively of all kinds of coins. Well, that's it.
Cool, man. Well, you have a good night. Enjoy Thailand, and I'll see you on the internet, man.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. Take care, man.